Hey, good morning, everybody. There's never been a more important time to get involved in politics. And I know this weekend there were a lot of protests on the street about various things where activists and campaigners and just lots of general people in the general public went out to campaign on lots of issues, but not associated with a political party. And that is very valuable to do so because it raises awareness of many of the issues which are coming against ordinary people and ruining our society. So I know in South London there was a protest against some drag queen story time in a pub. And we all know about those things and what goes on in those things. I don't think that young children should be exposed to some of the things that they are exposed to, not just there, but in other settings as well. There was a big protest in London to support the victims of injections. And so I'll say no more about the actual issue there, but lots of people were out there because of what's been going on in that area. There was a protest or an event in Manchester. I know some of the people who were speaking there or involved in setting it up against wokery and against cancel culture and against people not being able to complete their degrees because they have certain opinions which are not considered to be politically correct because of cultural Marxism going through the institutions, especially the universities. That's where it started off, but it spread to many other institutions as well. Now, all those things are very good and valuable to raise awareness of these issues, and there's many other things happening as well, which are issues, not least these whole 15-minute cities that councils around the country are now all suddenly acting on. It's almost like they've been triggered all at the same time, and now they're starting to implement and make plans to make this 15-minute city vision a reality where people will be cut off and prevented from or hindered from driving freely around their own cities outside 15 minutes from their house. And maybe have to pay charges to do so. And then there's the low traffic neighbourhoods, which is accelerating now. It started in London 4 or 5 years ago, then it spread to other places like Oxford. Now lots of councils around the country are trying to implement these low traffic neighbourhoods, again with road blockages, and also this idea of pollution charging, whether it's so-called clean air zones or low emission zones. And the idea there is to charge people a king's ransom to drive your own car into the city centre zone, or in the case of London, the whole of the county, which is what Sadiq Khan is trying to bring in from April this year, after already expanding the ULEZ zone 2 years ago to encompass all of inner London. Now he's expanding it to the borders of Greater London, and there's protests against that, and there is direct action and civil disobedience against that as well. I'm not giving an opinion on that. I'm just observing that people are actually taking direct action against cameras. And that's been reported on widely in the mainstream media even, that this is happening. So these are valuable protests on single issues, and many of the people who are protesting on one will be at another because they're all related together with Agenda 2030. So that's good, but we also need to get involved politically directly in politics and stand to become MPs and councillors. Now, when I first stood to be an MP, it was 2015, and I'd always thought, well, I'd like to do this, but how do you go about it? I had no idea of the way in, because the bigger political parties, you have to, be part of the circle to do it. But obviously now I am the leader of the Heritage Party. So I'm standing this time in the local elections for the Heritage Party, and many, many other people who are concerned, ordinary people who've never been in politics before, have put themselves forward, joined the Heritage Party, applied to be candidates. They've had an interview with me because I like to see people who are going to stand for us. And then they are now candidates, and they're putting their names forward, filling their forms in, giving them to the council, and will be on the ballot paper on May the 4th. And this is absolutely essential because many of these issues that I've just mentioned are controlled and implemented by local councils, obviously with money and backing from the fake Conservatives in Parliament, supported by Labour, Lib Dems and Greens in Parliament as well, and supported also by globalist bodies like the World Economic Forum, United Nations, etc. But they're implemented on a local level, and we've seen some terrible things happening recently. In Plymouth, you probably heard that the Tory council there chopped down a load of well-loved trees, and they did it in the middle of the night thinking that no one would notice, and then they would get up in the morning, they'd be gone, and there's nothing they can do about it. And they got away with actually chopping down about 3/4 of everything that they wanted to do against the wishes of the people in a consultation. But that's a Tory council. Then you've got Labour, London Mayor implementing this ULEZ charging zone against the wishes of the people who it's going to affect. So that's a Labour mayor you've got there. For the low traffic neighbourhoods, the fake Conservatives are very clever. They play a clever game because when Labour or Lib Dems are implementing it, the Tories in that local area will pretend that they're against it. This, for example, in Oxford, but then but in Canterbury, you've got the Conservatives pushing it, and in some of the London boroughs where you've still got LTNs. Originally, Wandsworth and Harrow, fake Conservative councils, they implemented low traffic neighbourhoods as well, but they were forced back through public action and the threat of judicial reviews. So it doesn't matter whether you've got Labour, Tory, Lib Dems, Greens, they're all, where they are in power, implementing these things, even though they pretend to oppose them when they're not in power in a particular council. They do these things when they are in power. Take Cambridgeshire, for example. There's a terrible thing happening in Cambridgeshire. The local council, so it's run, I think there was a majority of Labour, Lib Dem, and some independents who are really not good either, who want to chop down a whole 1,000 trees in this beautiful old orchard to make a bus lane. So they're chopping down trees for the climate, which is absolute nonsense. Now there, you see, the fake Conservatives pretended to oppose that, knowing that they are in a minority and there's absolutely no way they could stop it. But then in Plymouth, the fake Conservatives are in power, and when they're in power, they chop down the trees for whatever regeneration or green nonsense schemes that they want to bring in. So we need ultimately to get majorities on all of the councils at borough, district and county level, at regional level, that's, whether it's Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, and ultimately at national level as well, a majority of MPs to oppose this Agenda 2030 and to put in place our agenda, which is to simply restore our nation to common sense and make it work for the people so that we build back pride, purpose and prosperity to our nation, which has all been lost or being lost and being destroyed through many, many different avenues of attack. Cultural Marxism, the lockdown agenda and everything, and the climate agenda. It's all ruining our culture, it's ruining our society, it's ruining our economy. And we just need to stop that and rebuild our nation. And we've got to rebuild it on Christian principles, because our heritage is as a Christian nation. With those Christian principles, we can build up a successful nation that works. If you don't build a nation on Christian principles, you end up with something like the Chinese Communist Party and what they're doing in China. We don't want that. Absolutely not. But some people in the government at the moment have expressed how much they admire the Chinese Communist Party because they get things done without all these pesky little people getting in the way. Because if they do, they just get chucked in prison or beaten, and then they have to have a social credit score to actually be able to buy anything. We certainly don't want that here. So that's another issue, the whole central bank digital currencies, which we need to oppose at a national level. But at a local level, we need to make sure that people are able to continue to use cash. So such as places such as Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole, where I went last summer, they have now removed cash as a payment option in all the council-run and council-rented outlets, which is absolutely wrong. If our Heritage Party was in power in a local area, we would insist that businesses that rent council property for their shops or council-run things would take cash, because cash is freedom, as is being able to use a car. So we need to make sure those things are maintained and protected. So this gets me to my main point. Elections this year are happening in 2/3 of the country. A lot of England, not everywhere in England, but all over Northern Ireland. Nomination papers have to be in very, very soon. So the elections are on 4th of May. If you want to stand, you have to fill in some quite fiddly forms. I mean, I can help you with that. If you know what you're doing, it's okay. But there's 6 forms, and one of them's on 2 pages. So essentially 7 pages of forms you have to fill in and give to your local council, and they all have to be correct, by the 4th of April. So from when I'm making this video, that's only a week away. Now, a lot of people have come last week and said, "Oh, I want to be a candidate. Can I be a candidate?" And I've said, "Look, I'll try to get you through." So lots of people joined the Heritage Party last week, and I've interviewed everybody. I've tried to do that, and we have some more candidates now who have come in this week, and that's fantastic. And I'll try to help everybody who wants to be a candidate, as long as you are, going to be, past the interview and so on. And so I'm helping people. We have county coordinators all over the country who are helping people as well, helping the process, and helping people to be able to stand at a local level. And people are coming to us because they're concerned about these issues, the same issues that we're concerned about, and want to take action on a local level. And we need to sweep away Tory, Labour, Lib Dem, Green, and put in Heritage Party people who are going to implement policies for the people and that are really going to protect the environment, not this fake environmentalism which destroys the environment in the name of climate change. That is absolute nonsense, and it's an inversion of the truth and reality. So if you're still thinking about it, this really is a last call, because you've got to get moving now. Papers have to be in by next Tuesday at the latest, but it's best to get them in this week to the council. So if there's anything wrong on them, you've got the weekend to change them and go back on next Monday and Tuesday to hand them in corrected. And that happens to about half the people, because I can fill in the forms now. I've done it dozens of times for myself and other people. But if you're new, you're faced with these forms and what do I do here? And it's easiest to do it with someone to help you and explain it to you, which I can do and which our county coordinators can do. But this is time is short. So if you have been sitting on the fence thinking, oh look, I want to stand for local election this year, go for it. Join us today, heritageparty.org. Write to me or the candidate's email. office@heritageparty.org or candidates@heritageparty.org, and we'll try and help you get through, because the more people we can, the greater service it is to the public to be able to vote for someone who is not one of the globalist parties, and the greater the chance that we have of having influence on the council and being able to, if we get councillors, we can see then the inside information which is not available to the general public, because there's a lot of things go on in private, and those things need to be made transparent where it concerns changing people's lives and neighbourhoods and communities, so that people know and can then take action against it. So we will be in the Heritage Party on the side of our nation, our heritage, and our people. So please come and join us. Thanks for listening. This is the time to get politically involved, because this is election season. Okay, God bless you all.